Chapter 1: The Livestream. The gravel road leading to the mansion was barely visible under the van's headlights. Tom slowed the vehicle to a stop and stared at the massive building in front of them. The mansion stood at the end of the long driveway like a giant shadow against the night sky. Tall broken windows stared outward like empty eyes, and the roof sagged slightly in the middle as if the entire structure had been rotting for decades. Tom rubbed his hands together nervously. "Okay," he said quietly. "That is way bigger than I thought it would be." Jack leaned forward in the passenger seat, staring through the windshield. "Dude," he said with a grin. "This place is perfect." Tom looked at him. "Perfect. It looks like the house where people disappear." Jack laughed. "That's the point." Tom shook his head and grabbed the camera mounted on the dashboard. "All right. Let's do the intro before we go in." Jack reached behind his seat and grabbed their small tripod, 2 flashlights, and a portable battery pack. "You ready to become famous?" Jack said. Tom smirked. "Let's hope so." He tapped the screen on the camera. The red light turned on. Live. Tom immediately shifted into his YouTube personality. "What's up everyone?" he said loudly. "Welcome back to the channel." Jack leaned into the camera and waved. "Night Seekers, we're back with another paranormal investigation." Tom turned the camera slowly toward the mansion behind them. "And tonight," Tom said dramatically, "we're exploring one of the most haunted places in the country." Jack pointed toward the house. "This is Blackthorn Mansion." Tom nodded. "Built in the early 1900s and abandoned almost 60 years ago." Jack checked his phone. The livestream chat had already started filling the screen. "No way they went there. This place is cursed. Run lol. This is awesome." Jack's eyes widened. "Dude, we already have like 3,000 viewers." Tom blinked. "Seriously?" Jack nodded. "Yeah, people must have shared the stream." Tom smiled at the camera. "Well, if you're just joining us, tonight we're investigating the legend of Blackthorn Mansion." Jack leaned back and spoke dramatically. "According to rumors, a scientist used to live here." Tom rolled his eyes. "Yeah, and apparently he was insane." Jack shrugged. "Internet says he ran experiments on people." Tom laughed. "Internet also says aliens built the pyramids." Jack grinned. "Still, imagine if we actually found something." Tom looked back at the mansion. The front doors were massive, nearly 10 feet tall, covered in cracked paint and rusted metal hinges. A chill ran down his spine. "All right," Tom said slowly. "Let's go check it out." Jack grabbed the tripod and opened the van door. Cold air rushed inside. Tom stepped out holding the camera. The wind moved through the trees surrounding the mansion, making a low whispering sound. The gravel crunched under their boots as they walked toward the house. Tom aimed the camera at the entrance. "All right guys, we're approaching the front door now." Jack turned his flashlight on. The beam lit up the rotting wood of the giant door. "Moment of truth," Jack said. Tom pushed the door. Nothing happened. "It's locked." Jack stepped forward. "Let me try." He grabbed the old handle and shoved hard. The door burst open with a loud crack. Dust flew into the air. Tom coughed. "Okay, that worked." They stepped inside. The foyer was enormous. A grand staircase curved up to the second floor, and a broken chandelier hung crooked from the ceiling. Jack slowly turned in a circle. "Okay, this place is actually incredible." Tom aimed the camera around the room. "Look at this staircase." The livestream numbers continued climbing. 10,000 viewers. Jack looked at his phone again. "Bro, the stream is blowing up." Tom grinned. "See, I told you this place would get views." Suddenly, thump. Both of them froze. The noise came from upstairs. Jack looked up the staircase. "You hear that?" Tom tried to stay calm. "Probably the house settling." The chat exploded with messages. "What was that? Go upstairs." "Nope, nope, nope." Jack smirked. "Well, looks like the viewers want us to investigate." Tom sighed. "Of course they do." They slowly began walking up the staircase. Each step creaked loudly under their boots. Halfway up, Tom paused. "Okay, real question." Jack looked back. "What? You actually believe the stories about the scientist?" Jack shrugged. "I mean, they say he had a secret lab in the basement." Tom rolled his eyes. "Yeah, and Bigfoot probably helped him build it." Jack laughed. They reached the top of the stairs. A long dark hallway stretched in front of them. Several doors lined the walls. The air felt colder up here. Jack whispered. "All right, where to first?" Before Tom could answer, thump. The sound came again, louder this time, from somewhere deeper in the house. Tom slowly raised the camera. Well, looks like the investigation just got interesting. Far below them, deep in the darkness of the basement, something moved. And around the world, thousands of people continued watching the livestream. None of them knew yet. They were witnessing the beginning of a nightmare. Chapter 2: The Locked Rooms. The upstairs hallway stretched farther than Tom expected. Dust covered the wooden floor, and every step they took left clear footprints behind them. The air smelled stale, like the house had been sealed shut for decades. Tom held the camera out in front of him. "All right, guys," he said quietly to the livestream. "We're now on the second floor of Blackthorn Mansion." Jack shined his flashlight down the hallway. There were at least 6 doors. All of them closed. Jack grinned. "Well, looks like we've got options." Tom checked the viewer count on Jack's phone. 23,000 people are watching. Jack raised his eyebrows. "Seriously?" Tom nodded. "Yeah, this is officially our biggest stream." The chat was flying by too fast to read. "Open the doors. Don't split up. This is creepy. Check the last room." Tom looked at the camera again. "All right, let's check the first room." Jack stepped up to the closest door and slowly turned the handle. It creaked loudly as it opened. The flashlight beam revealed an old bedroom. A bed frame sat against the wall with no mattress. A dresser stood in the corner covered in dust. Torn curtains hung beside the broken window. Tom stepped inside. "Looks like a normal bedroom." Jack walked to the dresser and pulled open one of the drawers. It fell out and hit the floor. Clang. Jack laughed nervously. "Okay, that drawer was definitely not built to last." Tom aimed the camera around the room. "Nothing too crazy in here." The chat exploded again. "Check the closet. Look under the bed. Turn around." Jack walked to the closet door and opened it slowly. It was empty. Just darkness and cobwebs. Jack shrugged. "Ghost-free." Tom chuckled. "Well, that was exciting." They stepped back into the hallway. The floor creaked loudly under their boots. Jack pointed to the next door. "Room number 2. Tom nodded. "Let's do it." Jack tried the handle. Locked. "Huh." Tom leaned closer. "Seriously?" Jack rattled the knob again. "Yep. Locked." Tom pointed the camera at the door. "Interesting." The chat began spamming messages. "Break it. Open it. Don't open that door." Jack looked at Tom. "Well, what do you think?" Tom shrugged. "Probably just stuck." Jack stepped back and kicked the door hard. Bang. The sound echoed through the hallway. They both froze. For a moment, the entire house went silent. Then, somewhere below them, clang. Tom slowly turned toward the staircase. "Did that come from downstairs?" Jack whispered. "I think so." The chat began exploding again. "Basement. Something moved. Run." Tom tried to laugh it off. "Probably just the wind." Jack kicked the door again. Bang. This time the door swung open. The smell hit them instantly. "Rotten." Tom covered his nose. "Okay, that smells horrible." Jack shined his flashlight inside. The room looked different from the first bedroom. There was a desk in the corner covered with papers. Shelves lined the walls. Tom stepped closer. "Looks like an office." Jack walked toward the desk. The wood creaked loudly under his weight. Tom zoomed the camera in on the papers. Most of them were yellowed with age. Jack picked one up. "What is this?" Tom leaned closer. The paper was covered with handwriting. Jack read it slowly. Subject number 12, increased aggression after injection. Tom frowned. "What?" Jack grabbed another page. Subject number 8 displayed violent tendencies. Subject terminated after attacking staff. Tom looked at the camera. "Okay, that's weird." Jack flipped through the papers. There were dozens of them. Each page looked like experiment notes. Tom whispered. "Wait, are these about the scientist?" Jack nodded slowly. "I think so." He held one page closer to the camera. The writing looked rushed and messy. Jack read it out loud. Subject number 16, extreme psychological instability. Displays enjoyment when harming others. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Jack kept reading. Subject 16 shows promise, but containment may become difficult. Tom swallowed. "Dude." Jack looked up. "What?" Tom pointed the camera at another note on the desk. This one was written in thick black ink. Jack read it quietly. Subject 16 has escaped containment. Silence filled the room. The livestream chat exploded with messages. "This is fake. No way. Get out. Run." Tom tried to laugh. Okay, this has to be some kind of roleplay thing. Jack nodded. Yeah, probably someone messing around. Then they heard it. A slow sound. From the hallway. Creak. Both of them turned toward the open door. The hallway outside was dark. Empty. Tom whispered. Did you close that door earlier? Jack shook his head slowly. No. Another sound echoed through the mansion. This one was deeper. From below. The basement. Thud. Tom stared at Jack. Jack stared at the staircase at the end of the hallway. The chat messages were now moving faster than ever. 100,000 viewers. Tom's voice dropped to a whisper. Okay, I think the viewers want us to check the basement. Jack forced a nervous smile. Of course they do. Far beneath the mansion, in the darkness of the basement laboratory, something had heard them, and it was awake. Chapter 3: The Watching House. For several seconds neither Tom nor Jack spoke. They both stood frozen in the dusty office, staring toward the dark hallway outside the door. The only sound was the faint hum of the livestream camera and the wind pushing against the old windows of the mansion. Tom slowly lowered the papers on the desk. Okay, he whispered, trying to sound calm. That noise definitely came from downstairs. Jack nodded but didn't move. Yeah, I heard it too. Tom glanced at Jack's phone. The viewer count had jumped again. 148,000 people watching. Tom blinked. Jack, look at this. Jack looked down and his eyes widened. No way. The chat was flying past at impossible speed. Run. Don't go down there. This is insane. Something is in the house. Tom forced a laugh. All right everybody, calm down. It's probably just the house shifting. Jack leaned against the desk. Yeah, old houses make noise all the time. Neither of them sounded convinced. Tom looked back at the desk covered with experiment notes. Still, these papers are pretty weird. Jack picked up another sheet. This one says something about behavioral mutation. Tom raised an eyebrow. Mutation. Jack shrugged. Maybe the guy was doing psychology experiments or something. Tom looked at the camera. According to local legends, the scientist who lived here was named Drive. Elias Blackthorne. Jack nodded. People say he believed he could create the perfect killer. Tom laughed nervously, which obviously sounds ridiculous. Jack held up another paper. Well, this part says he injected people with something. Tom frowned. What kind of something? Jack flipped the page over. Doesn't say. Suddenly, slam. Both of them jumped. The office door behind them slammed shut violently. Tom spun around. What the? Jack rushed to the door and grabbed the handle. He pulled. It didn't move. Tom walked over. Don't tell me it's stuck. Jack pulled harder. Yeah, it's definitely stuck. Tom pushed against the door with his shoulder. Nothing. Jack looked at him. Okay, that's weird. Tom glanced back at the camera. Well guys, looks like we're temporarily locked in. The chat exploded with messages. Don't stay in there. Something closed it. You are not alone. Tom rolled his eyes. Relax everyone. Old houses, old doors. Jack looked around the room. There might be another exit. Tom turned the camera toward the back wall. There was a second door they hadn't noticed before. Jack pointed at it. There. Tom nodded. All right, let's see where this goes. Jack slowly walked toward the second door. The floor creaked loudly under every step. Tom followed with the camera. Jack reached the handle. Ready. Tom shrugged. Sure. Jack turned the knob. The door opened easily. Beyond it was another hallway. But this one was different. The walls were covered in old framed photographs. Tom stepped forward and aimed the camera closer. Okay, this is interesting. Jack grabbed one of the frames and wiped the dust off. The picture underneath showed several men standing in a laboratory. All of them were wearing old lab coats. One man stood in the center. He looked older than the others. Sharp eyes. Thin face. Jack read the name written under the photo. Dr. Elias Blackthorne. Tom leaned closer to the camera. That must be the scientist. Jack looked at another photograph. This one showed several people sitting in chairs. But something looked wrong. Their expressions were blank. Empty. Tom whispered. Who are those people? Jack read the caption. Test subjects. Tom felt a chill crawl down his back. Jack moved to the next photograph. This one looked different. The man in the photo was chained to a chair. His eyes stared directly into the camera. Even through the old photograph. He looked dangerous. Jack swallowed. This one says, Subject 16. Tom slowly stepped closer. The man's face looked calm. Too calm. Tom whispered. Why does he look like he's smiling? Jack suddenly noticed something written under the picture. He read it quietly. Subject 16, previously convicted murderer. Tom felt his stomach tighten. Jack continued reading. Displays extreme violence even before experimentation. Tom looked at him. So the scientist experimented on someone who was already a killer. Jack nodded slowly. Looks like it. Tom turned the camera back toward the hallway. Okay, that's actually disturbing. The chat messages were now moving so fast they blurred together. The viewer count jumped again. 210,000 watching. Jack laughed nervously. Well, our channel definitely just blew up. Tom smirked. Yeah, hopefully we survive the night to enjoy it. Then, from somewhere deeper in the mansion, they heard it. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, thud. Tom froze. Jack slowly looked toward the darkness at the end of the hallway. Another step echoed. Thud. Tom whispered. Jack. Jack whispered back. Yeah, I hear it. The footsteps stopped. Complete silence filled the mansion. The livestream chat exploded. Someone is there. Run. Run now. Tom swallowed. Okay. Jack grabbed his flashlight tighter. What do we do? Tom slowly turned the camera toward the staircase at the end of the hallway. Well, we did say we were checking the basement. Jack stared at him. You're kidding. Tom forced a grin. 200,000 people are watching. Jack sighed. Great. Together they slowly walked toward the staircase leading down into the darkness. Below them, hidden beneath the mansion, the old laboratory waited, and somewhere inside it, something had been listening to them. Something that should have never been alive. Chapter 4: The Basement Stairs. The staircase leading to the basement looked like it had not been used in decades. Dust covered every step. The wooden railing was cracked and splintered, and the darkness below swallowed the beam from Jack's flashlight like it was being eaten. Tom pointed the camera down the stairs. Well guys, he said quietly to the livestream, this looks like the way to the basement. Jack leaned over the railing and shined his flashlight deeper. The light revealed a long stairway that disappeared into blackness. Jack exhaled slowly. Man, that is creepy. Tom glanced at Jack's phone again. The viewer count had climbed even higher. 312,000 people watching. Tom shook his head in disbelief. Our channel has never had numbers like this. Jack tried to laugh. Well, I guess breaking into haunted mansions works. The chat was exploding with messages. Don't go down there. This is a bad idea. Do it. Basement, basement, basement. Tom sighed. Well, the viewers have spoken. Jack grabbed the railing. All right, let's go. They stepped onto the staircase. The first step creaked loudly. Creak. Tom slowly followed behind Jack, holding the camera steady as they descended. Each step echoed through the mansion. The temperature dropped the farther they went. Tom rubbed his arms. Okay, why is it suddenly freezing down here? Jack didn't look back. Basements are always colder. Tom glanced at the livestream chat again. Some viewers were typing the same thing over and over. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Turn around. Tom frowned. What are they talking about? Jack stopped halfway down the stairs. Talking about what? Tom read another message. They're saying they heard something behind us. Jack slowly turned his head toward the top of the staircase. The hallway upstairs was completely dark now. Tom whispered. Did we leave the lights on up there? Jack shook his head. We never turned any lights on. They stared at the darkness for a moment. Nothing moved. Jack shrugged. Probably just people trolling the chat. Tom nodded. Yeah, but he still felt uneasy. They continued down the stairs. At the bottom, Jack pushed open a heavy metal door. It groaned loudly as it swung open. The basement smelled terrible. Rot. Rust. Something else Tom couldn't identify. Jack aimed his flashlight around the room. Pipes ran across the ceiling. Old equipment sat scattered across metal tables. Broken glass covered the floor. Tom slowly stepped inside. Well, this definitely looks like a lab. Jack walked over to one of the tables. Rusty tools were still laying there. Syringes. Glass containers. Old notebooks. Jack picked up one of the notebooks and flipped it open. Okay, this is definitely the scientist stuff. Tom zoomed the camera closer. What does it say? Jack began reading. Experiment log. Subject behavioral modification trial number 4. Tom crossed his arms. Behavioral modification. Jack turned the page. This one says the injections increased aggression levels. Tom glanced around. The dark basement. So the rumors might actually be true. Jack nodded slowly. Looks like it. The viewer count climbed again. 420,000 watching. Tom looked at the camera. Well guys, looks like we found the lab. The chat messages were moving faster than ever. This is insane. Check the other rooms. There's something behind you. Tom sighed. Okay, seriously, everyone keeps saying that. Jack laughed. Chat loves messing with people. Tom turned the camera around slowly. Nothing was there. Just darkness. Then Jack noticed something on the far wall. Hey, what's that? Tom turned the camera. A large metal door stood at the end of the basement. Unlike everything else in the room, this door looked stronger, thicker, almost like a prison cell door. Jack slowly walked toward it. Tom followed. The door had a small window covered with scratched glass. Jack wiped some dust off and looked inside. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Tom raised an eyebrow. What do you see? Jack leaned closer to the window. I think it's another room. Tom pointed the camera at the door. All right, let's open it. Jack grabbed the handle. It didn't move. Locked. Tom looked around. There might be a key somewhere. Jack shined his flashlight across the room again. Then something caught his attention. Deep scratches covered the metal door. Long, deep, like something had clawed at it. Jack frowned. Tom. Tom walked closer. Yeah. Jack pointed at the scratches. You see this? Tom leaned closer. Looks like someone tried to break out. The chat exploded. Don't open it. Don't open that door. Run. Tom laughed nervously. Okay, now everyone is being dramatic. Jack stepped back from the door. Still, that's pretty weird. Tom turned the camera back toward the basement. All right guys, we're going to look around for a key. Then suddenly, from somewhere in the darkness behind them, they heard breathing. Slow, heavy. H. Tom froze. Jack's flashlight slowly turned toward the sound. The beam moved across the basement, across the tables, across the broken glass, and finally, toward the corner of the room. But the corner was empty. Tom whispered, "Please tell me you heard that." Jack nodded slowly. Yeah. The breathing stopped. The basement fell silent again. But somewhere in the darkness, something had just seen them. And it was Smiling Chapter 5, the old tapes. Tom and Jack stood in the basement, the darkness pressing in around them like a living thing. The metal door at the far end, scratched and scarred, loomed like a warning. Their flashlights cut thin beams across the dusty laboratory tables. The air smelled of rust, rot, and something far more metallic. Tom leaned over one of the tables, brushing off layers of dust. Check this out, he said quietly, holding up an old VHS tape. The label had faded almost entirely, but he could make out a few letters, S16 experiment. Jack's eyes widened. That has to mean, Subject 16, he whispered. Tom nodded slowly, keeping the camera trained on it. This is insane. If these are real, these could be actual footage of the experiments. The livestream chat exploded. OMG. Is that real? Play it. Run. Tom ignored them. We need to see this. If this is real, it's proof the scientist wasn't just messing around. Jack pulled a dusty VCR from a shelf and plugged it into a small monitor left behind. The machine whirred to life. Static filled the screen before an old lab room appeared. The camera in the footage panned slowly, showing subjects strapped into chairs, syringes and tubes connected to them. Tom swallowed hard. Wow, that looks horrible. Jack leaned closer. One of them, that's Subject 16, isn't it? The tape showed a man sitting perfectly still, eyes blank but sharp, like he could see right through the camera. Then, a syringe pierced his arm. His body twitched violently, his face contorted, but then he laughed. Quietly at first, then louder, a chilling, high-pitched laugh that made Tom shiver. Holy, that's not normal, Jack whispered. Tom's hand trembled as he held the camera. Guys, this is insane, he said to the stream. We're watching what might be a real experiment. This is history, maybe. The chat erupted. Killer inside. Get out now. That's him. Run. Tom ignored the warnings and kept watching. Subject 16 suddenly lunged out of the chair in the footage, slamming a scientist against the wall. Blood sprayed. The screen went black for a few seconds before static returned. Jack's breathing was shallow. Did he just kill him? Tom nodded slowly. Yeah, and the rest of them too. The tape shows him escaping. From the far corner of the basement, a soft noise echoed. A scraping sound. Tom froze. Did you hear that? Jack held his flashlight tighter. Yeah, something's down here with us. They both turned toward the sound. Their beam swept across tables, broken glass, and fallen chairs. Nothing. Then, a shadow moved. Quick, deliberate, and low. Tom's heart thudded. Jack, did you see that? Jack nodded, voice barely audible. Yes, something just moved over there. The chat went wild. There he is. 16 is here. Look behind you. Run. Tom tried to keep calm, speaking into the camera. All right, guys, stay calm. Nothing's. Thud. Something heavy hit the metal table behind them, sending glass and papers flying. Jack spun, shining his flashlight toward the noise. The beam caught something at the edge of the room, a figure. Tall, broad shoulders, eyes that glinted in the dim light. His movements were deliberate, calculated. Tom whispered, that has to be him. Subject 16. Jack swallowed hard. And the chat said he was still here, but this is impossible. The figure stepped forward slowly. His footsteps made no sound against the basement floor. Tom tried to back up. Jack, we need to leave. Now. Jack shook his head. There's nowhere to go, the door's locked. The figure stopped. He tilted his head, watching them like a predator sizing up prey. The chat messages scrolled faster than they could read. He's coming. Run. Don't turn around. Look out. Tom and Jack's flashlights trembled as the figure raised one hand slowly, then pointed at them. Tom swallowed. This is bad, really bad. Jack's breathing became frantic. Tom, what do we do? Before Tom could answer, the shadow lunged forward. And the basement plunged into chaos. Chapter 6. The hunt begins. The basement was alive with tension. Every shadow seemed to move on its own, every metallic surface reflected shapes that weren't there. Tom and Jack stood frozen for a moment, their flashlights trembling in their hands. The figure, Subject 16, stood motionless a few feet away, watching them. His eyes glinted with something far darker than any human instinct. Tom whispered into the camera, voice shaking. Guys, this is real. This isn't a prank. This is. Before he could finish, the figure moved. Fast. Silent. Jack stumbled back, knocking over a metal tray. Clanging echoes filled the basement. Run. Jack shouted. Tom pivoted toward the staircase, the only way back up. But as he moved, a low growl echoed through the room. Subject 16's grin was faintly visible in the darkness, his movements unnervingly calm yet deliberate. The chat exploded. Run, run, run. OMG, he's real. 16 is coming. Tom and Jack bolted for the stairs. Dust and debris flew around them as they climbed. Each step groaned under their weight. Behind them, the sound of footsteps, light, deliberate, and impossibly fast, echoed from the basement floor. Tom, he's right behind us. Jack yelled, almost losing his balance on the broken steps. Tom didn't answer. He just kept climbing, the camera bouncing wildly. The viewers were now exceeding 600,000. People around the world were witnessing a real-life nightmare unfold. At the top of the stairs, they reached the second-floor hallway. The air was colder here, the darkness deeper. Doors lined the hall like silent sentinels. Tom stopped. The front door, maybe we can get out that way. Jack nodded, but his eyes were fixed on the far end of the hallway. They're all locked. We're trapped. A loud thud came from the basement below. Something hit the stairs. The vibration ran through the wood beneath their feet. Tom swallowed hard. Jack, it's coming up. The shadow moved at the end of the hallway. Subject 16's figure emerged slowly, almost gliding, his presence overwhelming. Everyone, stay calm, Tom said to the livestream, though his own voice betrayed him. We're trying to get out safely. The chat erupted with panic. OMG, he's on the stairs. Turn around. Look out. 16 is coming. Jack grabbed Tom's arm. We have to split up. Maybe he'll follow me. Tom shook his head. No, we stay together. But the decision was made for them. A loud crack sounded as a door at the far end of the hall slammed open, revealing the attic stairs. A sudden draft of cold air rushed down the hallway. The figure stopped, then turned its head slightly, as if sensing a new path. Jack whispered, voice barely audible. Tom, we need a distraction. Tom's eyes scanned the hallway, landing on a toppled chair and broken table near the center. Okay, throw that, he said. Jack picked up the chair and hurled it toward the far wall. It smashed loudly, scattering debris. The figure paused, then slowly turned back to the noise. The hallway fell silent again, save for the sound of their rapid breathing. Now, Tom shouted. They sprinted for the attic stairs. The angle was steep, the steps narrow. Tom kept the camera on their faces, capturing every terrified expression. The livestream chat exploded beyond 700,000 viewers. The attic door loomed at the top. Jack reached it first and yanked it open. The stairs creaked alarmingly as they climbed into the darkness. The attic was empty, or at least it seemed that way. Dust-covered trunks and cobwebs filled the corners. A single small window let in pale moonlight. They pressed against the wall, listening. Silence. Too perfect. Then, thump. From the other side of the attic. Something heavy had landed. Footsteps began moving toward them, slow but methodical. Jack whispered. He's here. Tom swallowed hard. Yeah, and he's not stopping. The chat scrolled so fast it was impossible to read. Run upstairs. Lock the door. He's inside. Turn around. Tom noticed an old trunk near the far wall. Maybe we can hide inside that, he said. Jack nodded. Do it. They lifted the heavy lid and squeezed inside, pressing themselves against the darkness. Dust choked the air. Their breaths were shallow. Outside, the steps grew louder, circling the room. Subject 16's shadow stretched along the attic walls, moving with unnerving precision. Tom pointed the camera toward the small gap between the trunk and the floor. Guys, if we survive this, you'll know we tried everything. Jack whispered, voice barely audible. He's actually here. Watching. The figure stopped. A soft, chilling laugh echoed through the attic, low and deliberate. Tom's hand trembled on the camera. Please, someone stop watching this, he muttered. The laughter grew louder. The air in the attic felt heavier. The shadows seemed to shift, as if the house itself were alive, aligning with the predator hunting them. And somewhere below, the basement lab waited. Subject 16 was patient. And he knew exactly where they were hiding. Chapter 7 Trapped in the attic. Tom and Jack stayed pressed against the darkness of the trunk, their breaths shallow, hearts hammering so loudly they were sure the other could hear them. The attic was silent for a moment, too silent, but that only made the shadows on the walls feel alive. The faint moonlight streaming through the small window illuminated the figure outside. Subject 16's silhouette remained motionless, but the soft scrape of his shoes against the wooden floor made it clear he was circling them. Tom whispered into the camera. Guys, if you can still see this, we're in the attic. We don't know how long we can hide. Jack's hands shook as he clutched the camera. Tom, we can't stay here forever. From below, a soft creak echoed through the floorboards. Dust fell from the rafters as if the house itself had exhaled. The walls groaned. Tom frowned. Did the house just move? Jack swallowed hard. Yeah, I think it did. The whole attic shifted. Another thunk sounded from the opposite end of the room. Something heavy had landed, too heavy to be a normal person. The chest of drawers toppled, the sound reverberating through the attic like a gunshot. The chat scrolled frantically. Run. Lock the door. He's coming. Look out. Tom's grip on the camera tightened. Jack, we need a way out. Jack scanned the attic in the dim moonlight. One corner seemed less cluttered. A small hatch lay near the floorboards. Dust covered it, but a faint outline suggested it might lead somewhere, perhaps a secret passage. Tom whispered. Maybe that's our only chance. Jack nodded. Let's go. Slowly. They carefully stepped out of the trunk, keeping low. Each movement made the floorboards groan under their weight. The hatch creaked ominously as Jack pried it open. It revealed a narrow, dark passage. Cobwebs hung like curtains. A faint smell of mold and decay rose from below. Tom aimed the camera into the passage. All right guys, this looks like our escape route. It's tight, but it's the only way. Jack stepped first, disappearing into the darkness. Tom followed, squeezing himself through the narrow space. Dust and cobwebs filled the air. The livestream viewers could hear their muffled footsteps and shallow breathing. 873,000 watching. The passage twisted and turned. At one point, a low groan echoed behind them. Tom's stomach sank. He's upstairs, Tom whispered. He's right above us. Jack kept moving. Then we just need to keep going. Don't stop. The narrow corridor eventually opened into another room, a storage room filled with old furniture, trunks, and broken shelving. The moonlight from a small, cracked window illuminated the dust motes in the air. For a moment, they thought they were safe. Then, a sound. Crack. The attic hatch above them slammed shut. Dust fell around them. Tom stumbled backward, nearly hitting a stack of boxes. Jack's voice trembled. He just closed it. The door, it's locked now. Tom panned the camera upward, showing the sealed hatch. We're trapped, he said quietly. Completely trapped. From somewhere in the shadows, a faint scrape sounded. The footsteps were deliberate, heavy, and impossibly fast. Subject 16 was close. Jack whispered. Tom, he's going to find us. Tom swallowed hard. Yeah, and the viewers are seeing everything. The chat exploded. OMG, he's in there. Run. 16 found them. Lock yourself. Jack glanced at a nearby trunk. Maybe, we can hide in here. Tom nodded reluctantly. Yeah, last chance. They squeezed inside, barely able to move. The darkness was suffocating. Dust filled their lungs. The attic floor groaned above them as heavy footsteps drew nearer, circling the room with precision. A shadow passed over the small window, stretching across the floorboards. The sound of breathing, deep and deliberate, filled the attic. Tom whispered into the camera, voice barely audible. If we don't make it, this is what happened. Jack shook his head. Don't say that. But the figure paused above them, tilting his head. Subject 16's presence was suffocating, and every instinct in their bodies screamed that escape was almost impossible. The house groaned again. Dust fell from the ceiling. The walls seemed to vibrate, like the mansion itself was alive and aiding the predator. The chat had surpassed 900,000 viewers, all watching the boys' terror unfold in real time. Then, a long, low laugh echoed through the attic. Tom and Jack froze. It was calm, deliberate, menacing. Subject 16 had found them. And the hunt was far from over. Chapter 8: No Escape. The air inside the attic felt heavier, almost suffocating. Dust swirled around Tom and Jack as they crouched in the trunk, trying not to breathe too loudly. Their hearts pounded in sync with the heavy steps above them. Subject 16 was circling, deliberate and patient. The small window offered a faint sliver of moonlight. Through it, the world outside seemed calm, completely unaware of the nightmare unfolding within Blackthorn Mansion. Tom whispered into the camera. Guys, he's here. He's in the attic. We don't know how much longer we can hide. Jack's hands shook as he held the camera. Tom, we can't stay here forever. We need to move. Tom glanced upward, the floorboards trembling under the predator's weight. I know, but any movement could give us away. A low scrape sounded near the trunk. Something dragged across the wooden floorboards. The shadow moved, stretching across the room. Jack's voice was barely a whisper. He knows we're here. Suddenly, the attic hatch above them rattled. A hand slammed down, shaking the entire trunk. Tom's stomach dropped. It's him. He's trying to get in. Jack grabbed Tom's arm. We have to fight. We can't just hide. Tom swallowed hard, looking around the cramped space. The trunk lid was thin but sturdy enough to offer some protection. He grabbed a broken piece of wood from the corner. All right, on 3, he whispered. Jack nodded. 1, 2, 3. They kicked the trunk lid open and swung the makeshift weapons at the hatch. A shadow recoiled briefly above them, then slammed down with impossible speed. The trunk rocked violently. Tom's flashlight toppled over, its beam bouncing across the room. The figure lunged. Subject 16's face was illuminated for a brief moment, eyes sharp, teeth gritted, a smile twisted with malice. Tom stumbled backward, striking the corner of the attic wall. Pain shot through his side. Jack swung his piece of wood again, hitting the figure in the shoulder. A grunt escaped, but it only seemed to anger him. Move, Jack yelled. We need to get out of here. They scrambled toward the narrow passage that had brought them to the attic. Dust filled the air as they pushed debris out of the way. The steps creaked under their weight as they descended into the second-floor hallway. The mansion seemed to shift around them. Doors slammed shut on their own. The walls groaned. It felt alive, like the house itself was conspiring with the predator hunting them. Tom panned the camera toward the staircase leading down. The basement, we can't go back there, he said, voice trembling. Jack shook his head. Then where? We can't stay up here. He's hunting us. A loud crash sounded behind them. They spun around. The shadow of Subject 16 loomed in the doorway at the end of the hall. The chat on the livestream was exploding. Run. He's here. Turn around. OMG, OMG, OMG. Tom and Jack bolted down the hallway, the walls seeming to stretch longer than they had before. The floorboards creaked alarmingly under their feet. The sound of heavy breathing behind them was relentless, following them like a predator closing in. They reached the grand staircase leading to the first floor. Tom hesitated for just a second, then both of them sprinted down. Dust and debris rained around them as they barreled through the foyer. A shattered chandelier swayed overhead, threatening to fall. Tom ducked just in time. Jack stumbled over a fallen chair but regained his footing. They reached the front door. Tom yanked at the handle. Locked. Of course, he muttered. Jack pounded on the door. Someone help us. Please. The figure of Subject 16 appeared at the top of the stairs, descending slowly, methodical, grinning. Every step he took made the floor groan beneath him. Tom's hand hovered over the doorknob. There's no way out, he said, voice cracking. Jack swallowed hard. Then we have to keep running, somewhere. But the mansion seemed to shift again. Doors slammed, hallways twisted, and the exit they had just reached now appeared farther away. It was as if the house itself were bending to trap them. Behind them, Subject 16's presence grew closer, each step echoing like a death sentence. The livestream viewers numbered over 950,000 now, all witnessing the boys' panic in real time. Tom panted into the camera. If anyone's watching this, just know, we tried. We really tried. Jack grabbed his friend. Keep moving. Don't stop. They ran blindly down a narrow hallway. The walls seemed to close in. Every corner was a trap. Every step echoed into the dark, suffocating air. From behind, a low, guttural laugh reverberated through the mansion. Subject 16 was patient. He had all the time in the world. Tom stumbled over a fallen beam. Jack grabbed him, pulling him to his feet. But when they turned, the hallway stretched impossibly long. The exit had disappeared. And above them, the sound of heavy footsteps, deliberate and unstoppable, drew closer. They were trapped. And the hunt had only just begun. Chapter 9: The Twisting Halls. The mansion seemed alive now. Every corner they turned, every hallway they ran down, twisted and stretched in ways that made no sense. Tom and Jack's breaths came in ragged gasps as the darkness pressed in on them. Tom, where the hell are we? Jack whispered, glancing around frantically. Tom's flashlight trembled in his hand. The beam illuminated peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and doors that led nowhere, or maybe led somewhere they didn't want to go. I don't know, Tom admitted, voice shaking. The house, it's changing. It's like it doesn't want us to leave. A low creak echoed behind them. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, unavoidable. Jack froze. It's him. He's right behind us. Tom turned the camera toward the hallway. Shadows stretched impossibly long across the walls. The livestream chat scrolled at a dizzying pace. Run. He's right behind you. Turn around. OMG, OMG, OMG. Tom swallowed hard. Everyone, stay calm. We're trying. Jack grabbed his arm. Trying what? We've been running for hours. He's stalking us like a predator. A door slammed somewhere to their left. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. The mansion groaned as though reacting to their panic. Tom's hand tightened on the flashlight. There. That door, maybe it leads somewhere. Jack nodded, though fear flickered in his eyes. Then let's go. Hurry. They sprinted toward the door, but as they reached it, the hallway behind them seemed to stretch impossibly long. The exit they had just passed was gone. The mansion was twisting itself around them, trapping them deeper in its labyrinthine halls. Tom glanced back. The heavy footsteps were getting closer. Subject 16's silhouette appeared in the dim light of a hallway that hadn't existed before. Every movement was precise, measured. Terrifying. Jack, he's adapting, Tom whispered. Jack's face drained of color. What do you mean? The house, him, he's following us, but the layout is changing as we move. We can't outrun him. Not like this. Another door slammed violently to their right. The sound reverberated through the halls, disorienting them. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The air smelled like rotten metal. Tom panned the camera over the narrow hall. Guys, we're in some kind of corridor we didn't see before. This place, it's alive. Jack stumbled over a broken chair leg, nearly falling. Tom grabbed him, steadying his friend. Keep moving, Tom whispered. We have to find another way out. They ran deeper into the twisted halls, turning corners that shouldn't have existed. The mansion seemed to stretch endlessly, doors opening into rooms that were impossible, hallways bending back on themselves. The soft scrape of footsteps echoed behind them again. Closer now. Jack's voice cracked. Tom, he's faster than us. He knows exactly where we are. Tom's eyes widened. I know, we need to keep moving, even if it doesn't make sense. Another door slammed somewhere in the mansion. Dust fell from the ceiling in a shower of decay. Shadows shifted across the walls, forming shapes that almost looked human, but twisted, wrong, unreal. The livestream viewers were now over 980,000. Every one of them was watching in real time as Tom and Jack ran through a house that had become a living nightmare. A faint whisper echoed through the hallway, so quiet that at first Tom thought it was the wind. Then they heard it clearly. A voice, low and chilling, coming from somewhere behind them. You cannot escape. Tom froze. Jack, he whispered. Jack's grip tightened on his arm. We have to keep moving, he said, voice shaking. But the halls were twisting faster now, doors slamming, floors groaning. The mansion had become a trap. And somewhere behind them, Subject 16 was smiling. Chapter 10 Cornered. Tom and Jack stumbled into a small, dimly lit room at the end of one of the twisting halls. The walls were lined with cracked mirrors and peeling wallpaper, and a thick layer of dust covered the floor. They spun around, searching for a door, any door, but there was none. No, 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 Jack muttered, pressing his back against the far wall. Tom's flashlight shook in his hand. It's gone. The exit, the hallway, everything outside just vanished. The air was suffocating. The mansion groaned, its ancient timbers creaking under some unseen weight. Shadows seemed to crawl along the walls, stretching unnaturally as if the room itself were alive. A soft, deliberate footstep echoed from the other side of the room. Then another. And another. They found us, Jack whispered. He's here. Tom's heart pounded as he aimed the camera toward the shadows. Subject 16 stepped into view, tall, imposing, his grin horrifying in the dim light. He moved slowly, deliberately, savoring their panic. The livestream chat went insane. Run. He's in the room. Look out. OMG OMG OMG. Tom swallowed hard. Guys, he's in the room with us. Jack's eyes darted around, searching for anything they could use. A broken chair, a piece of wood, anything. He grabbed a jagged piece of wood from the corner. We have to fight. Jack said, voice shaking. Tom shook his head. We can't fight him. We barely even make it through a hallway. Subject 16 took a step closer, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop further. His presence was oppressive, suffocating, and utterly unrelenting. Then he lunged. Jack swung the piece of wood desperately. It barely grazed the figure. Subject 16 moved faster than they could comprehend, sidestepping and closing the distance. Tom stumbled back, tripping over a fallen beam. He landed hard on the floor. Pain shot through his shoulder. Tom! Jack yelled, swinging again, but the figure grabbed the wood and twisted it from his hands effortlessly. The room was silent except for their rapid breathing and the creaking of the mansion. Then the low, guttural laugh filled the space, vibrating through the walls. You cannot leave, the figure said, voice calm but filled with menace. Tom scrambled to his feet. Jack, we need to run. But when they looked at the walls, mirrors reflected not just their images, but distortions, twisted, grotesque versions of themselves staring back with empty, black eyes. Jack stumbled, eyes wide. It's everywhere. The figure took another step. Each movement echoed with terrifying precision. Tom aimed the camera at the shadow, trying to keep a record of what was happening. If anyone's still watching, we're trapped. There's no way out. Subject 16 lunged again. This time, Jack tried to push past him, but the figure grabbed his shoulder with inhuman strength, pulling him back. Jack screamed, spinning around, but Subject 16's grip was unyielding. Tom swung the flashlight, hitting the figure in the face. A faint hiss escaped from the shadow. It stepped back just slightly, enough for Tom to grab Jack's arm. Come on, Tom shouted. They sprinted toward a corner of the room that seemed promising. But as they moved, the walls shifted. Mirrors warped, the floorboards twisted under their weight, and the ceiling groaned as if the mansion itself was collapsing around them. Behind them, the heavy footsteps of Subject 16 grew louder, closer. Jack gasped. Tom, we're not gonna make it. Tom's voice cracked as he whispered into the camera. If anyone sees this, please, we tried. We really tried. The shadow stopped for a moment, tilting its head. Then, with terrifying speed, it lunged again. The room erupted in chaos, shouting, crashing, splintering wood, and the guttural laugh of something that should never have existed. And outside, the livestream viewers were now over 1 million, witnessing every second of the boys' terror as the mansion closed in around them. Chapter 11 No Way Out. Tom and Jack pressed themselves against the far wall of the room, gasping for breath. Every instinct screamed at them to run, but the walls had shifted again. The mirrors that lined the room reflected not just their terrified faces, but impossible distortions, elongated limbs, empty eyes, twisted mouths, like the mansion itself was mocking them. The heavy footsteps of Subject 16 echoed in rhythm with their panicked heartbeats. He moved deliberately, stalking them as if savoring every moment. Jack's hands shook as he clutched a broken chair leg. Tom, we can't fight him. He's too strong, we're too weak. Tom swallowed hard, gripping the camera. I know, but we can't stop either. We have to keep moving. A loud crash resounded from the hallway outside. Another door slammed violently somewhere within the mansion. Dust fell from the ceiling. The house itself groaned, as though it were alive, reacting to their panic and fear. Tom, he's gonna get us. Jack whispered. I know, Tom muttered, scanning the room for anything, any exit. But there was nothing. The walls had closed in. The mirrors made the space seem larger than it was, twisting the room into a maze. Then came the soft, deliberate scraping of nails, or claws, on wood. It was closer now. Too close. Tom panned the camera toward the sound. The shadow of Subject 16 appeared reflected in the mirrors, stretching across the room from multiple angles. One moment he was to their left, the next in the corner behind them. Jack's voice cracked. It's everywhere. Tom tried to stay calm. The mirrors, they're messing with us. Don't panic. A low, guttural laugh filled the air, vibrating through the walls. The mansion shivered as if alive. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the floor groaned under some immense, unseen weight. Suddenly, the room tilted. The floor slanted beneath them, forcing them to scramble to keep their footing. Doors slammed shut around them, trapping them like prey in a cage. Jack cried out. Tom, we're done for. Tom whispered into the camera, voice trembling. If anyone sees this, no, we tried everything. There is no escape. The shadow moved faster now, emerging from one mirror to another. It lunged, grabbing at Jack, who screamed in terror. Tom swung the camera and flashlight in a blind panic, but it barely slowed the figure. Subject 16's presence was suffocating, almost tangible, pressing down on them like the house itself was conspiring with him. Every step, every move, pushed them closer to the edge. The livestream chat was a chaotic storm of panic. Run. He's going to kill them. Look out. OMG, 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 OMG. Jack stumbled back, nearly falling over a broken chair. Tom grabbed him. We have to move somewhere. But every doorway they tried led to another twisted hallway, another locked room, another dead end. The mansion's labyrinth seemed infinite, as if it were folding in on itself, keeping them trapped. The figure lunged again. Its grin stretched unnaturally across its face as it advanced. Jack screamed. We're gonna die. Tom's hand shook as he held the camera toward them. I don't want this to be it, but. The shadows crept closer. The house groaned and twisted, slamming doors, rattling windows, and shaking the floor beneath them. Panic clawed at every nerve. The last thing the livestream viewers saw before the camera jerked violently was Subject 16's dark silhouette looming over them, the mansion itself seeming to squeeze the boys into a corner, leaving them no escape, no hope. And then, silence. The house waited. The hunt was over. Chapter 12 The House Remembers. The mansion settled into an eerie silence. Dust hung in the air like a fog, disturbed only by the faint echo of broken furniture and the faint drip of water somewhere in the distance. Tom and Jack lay huddled in the corner, trembling, their bodies aching from the relentless chase, their hearts pounding in the oppressive stillness. Tom whispered into the camera, his voice barely audible. Guys, if you're still watching, I don't know if we're going to make it. This house, it's alive, and it remembers everything. Jack's hands shook as he pressed himself against the wall. I can feel it, Tom. Every step we take, it's like the house knows where we are, like it's keeping score. The mansion groaned again. A distant thump echoed from below, as if someone, or something, was moving in the basement. The air smelled of rust, decay, and something far more sinister, like old blood that had never been cleaned up. Tom's flashlight illuminated a hallway leading deeper into the mansion. The walls were lined with faded portraits. Figures stared down at them, eyes sharp and lifeless. Some wore lab coats. Others had expressions of terror, clearly subjects of Dr. Elias Blackthorne's experiments. Jack whispered. Do you think it's them? The ones he experimented on? Tom swallowed hard. I don't know, but I think this house, it remembers. All the pain, all the screams, it keeps them alive somehow. They moved cautiously down the hallway, the floorboards creaking beneath them. The air grew colder with every step. Mirrors reflected their faces, but the images were twisted, faces elongated, eyes hollow, expressions of terror burned into the reflections. A faint whisper echoed from behind one of the portraits. Leave, now. Tom froze. Did you hear that? Jack nodded. Yeah, it's like the house itself is warning us, or maybe, teasing us. They reached a door at the end of the hall. It was old, wooden, and reinforced with iron bands. The handle was cold beneath Tom's fingers. He pushed gently. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. This might be another way out, Tom said, hope flickering in his voice. Jack glanced at the shadows around them. Or it might lead us straight into him. The staircase descended into darkness. Broken furniture and discarded equipment littered the steps. A faint light flickered below, greenish, unnatural, like the remnants of the laboratory. Tom whispered to the livestream, voice shaking. If anyone is still with us, this is it. We're going deeper, we're going to find whatever's left down there. As they reached the bottom, the air grew thick, heavy. Old equipment lined the walls, cages, glass containers, syringes, and notebooks filled with notes on experiments. The faint smell of chemicals mixed with decay. Jack stepped forward cautiously. This is where it all began, isn't it? Tom's hand trembled as he aimed the camera around the room. Yeah, Dr. Blackthorne's lab. All the experiments, all the horrors, it's still here, waiting. A chill swept across the basement. The shadows seemed to stretch, moving independently of the dim lights. Somewhere, in the darkness, a low, guttural laugh echoed. It's him, Jack whispered. Subject 16. Tom swallowed hard. And the house, it's helping him. It wants us here. It wants us to remember everything, the pain, the fear, the screams. The livestream viewers, now over 1 million, watched silently as the two friends stood frozen in the middle of the laboratory. Every heartbeat, every shiver, every fearful glance was broadcast worldwide. Tom whispered, voice trembling. We don't stand a chance, do we? Jack shook his head, voice barely audible. No, this house, it doesn't let anyone leave alive. And somewhere in the shadows, Subject 16 moved, patient, relentless, waiting for the moment to strike. The house had remembered them. And now, it would not forget. Chapter 13 The Lab's Secrets. Tom and Jack stepped cautiously across the basement floor. Every step made a sharp creak in the otherwise still air. The flickering green light revealed remnants of the laboratory, rusted cages, glass containers stained with dried fluids, and notebooks scattered haphazardly on dusty tables. Jack whispered, voice trembling, Tom, look at this. These cages were the subjects, all of them. Tom aimed the camera across the room. Shadows of metal bars stretched across the floor, and inside some of the cages, remnants of old restraints and tools of torment lay scattered. He swallowed hard. This was where Blackthorne experimented, tortured them, Tom said, voice shaking. And Subject 16, he survived all of this, and worse. He became this. A low, deliberate creak sounded from behind them. Both froze. Tom pointed the flashlight toward the corner. Nothing moved, only the shadows of the broken equipment stretched unnaturally across the walls. Jack whispered, he's here, he's watching. Tom swallowed and tried to keep the camera steady. We need something, anything, to defend ourselves. Even if it's small, we have to try. They moved across the room, rifling through broken cabinets and drawers. Jack held up a long, jagged metal pipe. This'll do, maybe. Tom nodded, gripping a rusted wrench he had found. Better than nothing. As they searched, Tom noticed a set of old videotapes stacked in a corner, dusty but intact. The labels were faded, but he could make out a few words. Subject 16, Behavioral Logs, Experimental Trials, Blackthorn. Jack leaned over the tapes, whispering, "If these are his past experiments, maybe we can learn something, some weakness." Tom grabbed the first tape. "We don't have time, he could attack at any moment, we need to move fast." Suddenly, a cold draft swept through the room. The lights flickered violently. Papers and dust were blown across the floor. The mansion groaned, as if alive, shifting the tables and cages. Jack froze. "Tom, look at the walls." Tom's flashlight caught the shadows moving independently of the light. The reflections in the broken glass and mirrors seemed to twist, forming humanoid shapes that weren't really there, distorted echoes of the past victims. A low, guttural laugh echoed from the darkness. "He's here," Tom whispered. "And he's not alone, the house, it's part of him now." Jack's hand tightened around the metal pipe. "We have to keep moving, we can't let it surround us." Tom turned the camera toward a narrow doorway that led deeper into the basement. A faint green glow pulsed from inside. This must be the main lab, the center of everything. If we find him there, maybe we can end this, maybe survive. Jack swallowed hard. Or, we could die trying. Either way, he's waiting. The livestream viewers, now over 1.1 million, were glued to every trembling motion, every fearful glance. Every heartbeat, every whisper was broadcast worldwide. Tom whispered to the camera, "If anyone's watching, we're trying, really trying." And somewhere in the shadows, the faint sound of footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate, patient. Subject 16 was coming. And the house, it was ready to help him. Chapter 14, The Heart of Horror. Tom and Jack pushed open the narrow doorway, stepping into the main laboratory. The air hit them like a wall, thick with the stench of chemicals, rot, and the lingering scent of blood. Flickering green lights revealed a massive room filled with broken tables, shattered glass, and cages that had once held Drive. Elias Blackthorn's subjects. Jack swallowed hard. This is the center, this is where it all happened. Tom's flashlight swept across the room, landing on a large, rusted table in the center. Tubes, syringes, and faded notebooks were scattered across it. Broken glass containers reflected their pale, frightened faces. Everything he did, it started here, Tom whispered into the camera. Suddenly, the temperature dropped. The mansion groaned, walls shifting as though the room itself were alive. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally along the walls. Jack gripped the metal pipe tighter. "Tom, I think he's here, I can feel him." A low, guttural laugh echoed from the far corner. The shadows moved. And there he was, Subject 16, emerging from the darkness, taller, broader, more terrifying than ever. His eyes glinted in the green light, and a twisted grin stretched across his face. Tom's voice trembled. He's real, he's actually here. The livestream chat erupted into chaos. "He's in the lab. Run. OMG, OMG, OMG. Don't go anywhere near him." Jack swung the metal pipe, but Subject 16 moved faster than thought possible. He sidestepped easily, closing the distance with terrifying precision. "You shouldn't be here," the figure hissed, voice low and deliberate. Tom swung the wrench, narrowly missing the figure. Every strike seemed futile. The shadow was everywhere at once, one moment in the corner, the next reflected in the broken glass across the lab. Jack yelled, panic rising. "We can't fight him. He's too strong. We have to run." They backed toward a set of stairs that led deeper, hoping for an exit, but the mansion shifted around them. Doors slammed shut. The floorboards groaned and tilted, forcing them to scramble to keep their footing. Subject 16 moved closer, slow but unstoppable, each step punctuated by the mansion's own groaning. The air grew thick, the green light flickered wildly, and the shadows seemed to pulse with anticipation. Tom whispered to the livestream, voice shaking. "Guys, we're trapped, completely trapped. He's here, and the house is helping him." Jack's grip on the pipe loosened. We're done for, Tom, I can feel it. The figure lunged. Tom swung the wrench again, but Subject 16 grabbed it with inhuman strength, snapping it like it was a twig. The two boys stumbled back, colliding with a table. Syringes and glass containers shattered under their weight, spraying the floor with shards. The mansion groaned louder, walls and ceiling shifting, the room closing in. Every doorway they tried to reach twisted away, becoming impossibly distant. Subject 16's grin widened. There is no escape. The livestream viewers, now over 1.2 million, watched in horror as the boys' last desperate struggle unfolded. Tom whispered, almost to himself, if anyone sees this, know we tried, really tried. And the shadow loomed closer, patient, relentless, and unstoppable. Chapter 15 The Final Struggle. The main lab had become a nightmare of shadows and twisted reflections. Broken glass crunched under Tom and Jack's feet as they stumbled backward, each step bringing them closer to the impossible truth: there was no way out. The mansion itself seemed to pulse with malevolence, walls bending, floorboards groaning, as if it were conspiring with Subject 16. Jack's hands shook around the metal pipe. Tom, he's going to get us, there's nowhere to run. Tom swallowed hard, gripping the broken wrench. We can't stop, we have to try, maybe we can distract him, somehow. The shadow moved toward them with terrifying precision. Each step made the floor vibrate beneath them. Its twisted grin seemed to stretch wider in the flickering green light. You shouldn't be here, Subject 16 hissed, his voice low and deliberate. Jack swung the pipe, hitting the figure across the shoulder. A grunt escaped, but the figure barely flinched. It lunged forward, forcing them to retreat. Tom swung the wrench wildly, catching the figure's arm this time. A hiss of frustration escaped him. The shadow recoiled slightly, just enough to give the boys a moment to breathe. Tom panted, aiming the camera. Guys, we're trying, we really are. The mansion groaned louder, and debris fell from the ceiling. A long crack appeared along one wall, dust and plaster tumbling to the floor. The room itself seemed to twist, narrowing the space and pushing the boys toward the corner. Jack whispered, voice trembling. Tom, we're trapped, the house, it's alive. Tom glanced at the twisted walls and the distorted mirrors. I know, but maybe we can use it against him. They ran toward a row of overturned tables, hoping to create a barricade. Tom shoved one against the far wall, Jack pushed another into place, and together they held their ground as Subject 16 approached. The shadow stopped, tilting its head, analyzing them. Then it lunged. The boys swung their makeshift weapons, but the strikes were futile against the inhuman strength before them. Glass shattered, metal bent, and the mansion groaned with each movement. Dust filled the air, stinging their eyes. Jack gasped. Tom, we can't hold him. He's too strong. Tom's voice cracked. We have to, we can't give up. Subject 16 slammed into the barricade. Tables toppled. The boys were thrown to the floor. Tom's flashlight skidded across the floor, illuminating the twisted figure above them. A low, guttural laugh echoed, vibrating through the room. The walls shifted, closing in further. The mansion was collapsing around them, helping the predator, crushing any hope of escape. Jack grabbed Tom's arm. Tom, it's over, I can feel it. Tom whispered into the camera, voice barely audible. If anyone sees this, we tried, we really tried. The shadow lunged again. The metal pipe and wrench were snatched from their hands effortlessly. The last barrier shattered. The mansion trembled as if it were savoring their fear, crushing them into the corner of the collapsing lab. The livestream viewers, over 1.3 million now, watched in horror as the boys were cornered, battered, and utterly helpless. Every scream, every gasp, every desperate movement broadcast worldwide. Subject 16 loomed over them. The green light flickered, shadows stretching across the walls like claws. You belong to this house, he whispered. And in that moment, Tom and Jack realized, the mansion had always claimed its victims, and now, it had claimed them. Chapter 16 Consumed. The lab shook violently. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling as the walls of the mansion groaned and warped. Tom and Jack huddled together in the corner, bruised, bleeding, and utterly exhausted. The green flicker of broken lights revealed the shattered remnants of the tables and cages that had once imprisoned Blackthorn's subjects. Subject 16 loomed above them, an unstoppable shadow of human malice. His grin was wide, cruel, and patient, as if he had all the time in the world to savor their fear. The mansion itself seemed to pulse around him, walls contracting, floors twisting, as if helping him corner his prey. Tom's hand trembled as he held the camera. If anyone sees this, please, we tried. His voice broke with exhaustion and terror. Jack's breath came in ragged gasps. It's over. There's no escape. The house, it wants us. The shadows shifted, extending like fingers along the walls, the floor, and even the ceiling. The mansion itself seemed alive, moving with intent, pressing the boys toward the center of the collapsing lab. A low, guttural laugh echoed from Subject 16. You belong to this house. Tom and Jack exchanged a terrified glance. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere left to go. The walls creaked, bending inward. The ceiling lowered slightly, debris and plaster falling around them. The mansion was closing in, a predator itself. Jack whispered, voice shaking, Tom, we're done, this is it. Tom nodded weakly, eyes wide with despair. Yeah, we tried, we really tried. He pointed the camera toward the shadows, toward the figure looming over them, toward the crumbling walls. Subject 16 moved with inhuman speed, grabbing them both effortlessly. The boys screamed, struggling against impossible strength, but it was futile. The mansion trembled violently, dust filling the air, broken glass cutting into their skin. The livestream chat exploded. No. Save them. OMG OMG OMG. He's killing them. The shadows wrapped around Tom and Jack, cold and suffocating. The walls pressed inward. The mansion groaned and rattled as if swallowing them whole. Their screams echoed through the twisted corridors, mingling with the guttural laughter of Subject 16. Tom's voice cracked as he whispered into the camera one last time. If anyone sees this, know, the house always wins. Jack's hand reached out toward him. I'm sorry, Tom. The mansion shuddered violently. The shadows consumed them. Tables, broken glass, and debris tumbled into the void created by the shifting walls. The boys were pressed together, trapped, crushed by the relentless weight of the living house and its psychotic guardian. Subject 16's laughter echoed as the last visible part of them disappeared into darkness. The mansion settled, silent again, as though nothing had happened. Dust hung in the air, and the faint green light flickered weakly over the ruins of the lab. The livestream didn't end immediately. Viewers around the world watched in real time as the camera, held loosely in Tom's hand, went dark. Silence filled the screen. Over 1.4 million viewers stared in horror at nothing but shadows, dust, and the ruins of the haunted mansion. And in the dark corners of Blackthorn Mansion, Subject 16 waited, patient, eternal, and unstoppable. The house had remembered them. And it had claimed them. Chapter 17 Aftermath. The mansion settled into a quiet so deep it felt unnatural. Dust hung thick in the air, illuminated by faint streaks of green light that flickered from broken bulbs. Broken glass littered the floor. Tables, cages, and splintered wood lay scattered like remnants of a forgotten nightmare. Subject 16 had vanished into the shadows, or perhaps he never left. The house itself seemed to breathe slowly, methodically, as if it were savoring the silence after the hunt. In the center of the destroyed laboratory, the camera lay abandoned. Its lens cracked, but it still recorded. The livestream had gone dark for viewers worldwide, leaving over 1.4 million in stunned silence. Social media erupted with theories, panic, and disbelief. Some claimed it was a prank. Most knew, deep down, it wasn't. A faint whisper echoed through the mansion, almost imperceptible. Next. The air was colder now, heavier. Shadows clung to corners, stretching unnaturally along walls and ceiling. The house seemed to move subtly, adjusting to the absence of its latest victims, preparing itself for the next. In the basement lab, remnants of Blackthorn's experiments still lay scattered. Notebooks with blurred writing, broken glass containers, and rusted cages. The faint smell of chemicals and decay lingered, refusing to fade. Blackthorn's legacy was alive, feeding the mansion and the psychotic guardian he had created. The walls seemed to hum faintly. The echoes of screams, long past and present, reverberated through the halls. Even in the absence of Tom and Jack, the mansion remembered. Every scratch on the wood, every dent in the metal, every splintered cage held a memory of terror. Somewhere in the upper floors, a faint movement caught the corner of the camera's cracked lens, a shadow shifting, deliberate, waiting. Subject 16 was patient. He did not need to hunt immediately. The house had already claimed its prey, the world had watched. Now, it waited for the next curiosity, the next foolish intruder, the next victim. Outside, the wind howled through the broken windows, carrying faint whispers to the surrounding woods. Travelers and thrill-seekers who had once wandered too close to the mansion would now feel it, though they didn't yet know what waited inside. The livestream's final moments were replayed over and over. Clips spread across forums, social media, and news outlets. Millions watched the final camera feed, over 1.5 million viewers worldwide, all glimpsing the terror, the collapsing lab, and the shadows that devoured the two boys. And in the quiet of the mansion, the faintest of smiles seemed to echo through the halls. The house was alive. The shadow was eternal. And the next visitor would arrive. Chapter 18: The Next Curious Souls. Weeks passed, and the world's fascination with Blackthorn Mansion grew. Clips from Tom and Jack's livestream were dissected, replayed, and shared endlessly. Forums debated whether the footage was real, but in the mansion itself, reality remained unshakable. The house had claimed its victims, and it hungered still. Two new figures approached the wrought iron gates, their flashlights cutting thin beams through the night fog. They were thrill seekers, amateur paranormal investigators, drawn by the legend of the haunted mansion and the viral livestream. One of them, a tall, confident woman named Lena, whispered, "Can you believe this place? People say the last team disappeared, all caught on camera. Over 1 million people saw it." Her companion, Eli, shrugged, though his unease was obvious. "Yeah, it looked like a hoax to me. But something about it feels off." The mansion loomed above them, dark and oppressive. Broken windows stared down like lifeless eyes, the paint peeling from the walls, and the iron gates squeaked as the wind shifted. The air smelled of damp earth and old decay. Lena adjusted her camera. "We're gonna livestream this. If it's real, this could go viral. People would love to see us explore the mansion." Eli hesitated. "You really think we should? I mean, the last guys. Tom and Jack." Lena interrupted. "Yeah, they made mistakes. We won't. We'll be careful." The gates creaked open with a slight push. The mansion seemed to breathe, as if inhaling the newcomers' curiosity, their fear, their excitement. The shadows inside shifted subtly, stretching and twisting in anticipation. Inside the foyer, dust covered the floor. Broken furniture and remnants of past intrusions littered the hall. Lena switched on her camera. The feed went live instantly. Viewers around the world began tuning in, unaware that they were about to witness another tragedy. A faint whisper echoed through the hall. Eli froze. Did you hear that?" he asked. Lena shook her head. "It's just the wind. Don't overthink it." But the mansion wasn't the wind. It was alive. It had remembered Tom and Jack. It had watched their terror. And now it hungered again. From the shadows above, a faint scraping sounded, slow, deliberate. A faint silhouette moved just beyond the cracked balustrade of the staircase. Subject 16 had returned, patient and immortal, ready to feed the mansion's insatiable appetite for fear. Eli's unease grew. "Lena, maybe we should." But it was too late. The mansion had already shifted, subtly twisting the halls behind them, closing off exits, shaping corridors that didn't exist before. The shadows stretched, reaching. The air grew colder, heavier. Lena smiled nervously at the camera. "Okay, guys, welcome back. Maybe this is going to be fun." The faint echo of a guttural laugh replied from the darkness, patient, deliberate, eternal. The viewers, now numbering in the hundreds of thousands once more, watched as the mansion began to awaken for its next prey. Blackthorn Mansion was ready. Subject 16 was ready. And the next hunt had begun. Chapter 19: Shadows of the Past. Lena and Eli moved cautiously through the mansion, their flashlights piercing the thick darkness. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a warning. Dust hung in the air, swirling in the beams of light, disturbed by each tentative step. "Look at this place," Lena whispered, awe and fear mingling in her voice. "It's worse than I imagined. You can feel something here." Eli nodded, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "Yeah, it's like the house itself is watching us." The foyer led to a hallway lined with portraits, faces staring down at them from decades past. Some were stern, some terrified, but all seemed alive in the flickering light. Broken mirrors reflected distorted images of the two intruders, elongating their limbs and twisting their shadows into grotesque forms. Lena's camera feed went live to viewers worldwide. Hundreds of thousands tuned in, drawn to the lure of another haunted investigation. Eli's unease grew as they entered the basement corridor. The faint smell of chemicals and decay was stronger here, mingling with the metallic tang of old blood. Rusted cages and shattered glass littered the floor. The remnants of Dr. Elias Blackthorne's experiments were everywhere: twisted mannequins, broken syringes, and notebooks with pages of smudged, illegible writing. God, he really did this, Eli whispered, picking up a torn notebook. The pages were filled with diagrams of human anatomy twisted into unnatural forms. All these experiments, all the people, it's insane. Lena aimed the camera at the notebooks. Guys, this is what we were warned about. The house, it's not just haunted. Someone, lives here. And it's watching us. From the darkness, a faint sound echoed: slow footsteps, deliberate, approaching. Shadows twisted in impossible ways across the walls, stretching toward them like living fingers. Eli froze. Lena, did you hear that? Before she could answer, a guttural laugh reverberated through the corridor. Low, patient, eternal. Subject 16 emerged from the shadows, his figure both familiar and impossible. His face was a mask of malice, grinning at them with cruel anticipation. Lena's hands shook on the camera. It's him, it's the same thing, the monster from the livestream. The mansion responded instantly. The walls seemed to close in subtly, corridors twisting, doors slamming, trapping them in a shrinking labyrinth. The air grew colder, heavier, suffocating. Subject 16 moved with inhuman speed, circling them, patient, stalking, knowing their every move before they made it. The boys before had tried to run. They had failed. Lena and Eli were beginning to realize the same would happen to them. Eli, we need to, Lena's voice caught. Her flashlight flickered as the shadows stretched across the floor, reaching, clawing. The mansion's whisper echoed around them. You belong to this house. The livestream chat exploded again. Run. Look out. Don't turn around. OMG, OMG, OMG. The shadows grew darker, more tangible. The house itself pressed inward, shifting subtly, like it had learned from the previous victims. Every corridor became a trap. Every step brought them closer to the inevitable. Eli grabbed Lena's arm, panic rising. We're going to die, it's the same as them. Lena's eyes filled with tears. We have to keep moving, we have to. But deep down, both knew, the mansion had already decided their fate. Subject 16 smiled, patient, deliberate, eternal. And the house was hungry. Chapter 20: Eternal Darkness. The mansion had fully awakened. Every shadow, every creaking floorboard, every warped wall worked together to trap Lena and Eli. Their breaths came in ragged gasps as they ran through hallways that no longer obeyed logic. Each turn led to another dead end, another twisted corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly. Lena's hands shook as she held the camera. Eli, we have to find a way out. Eli's eyes were wide with terror. There's no way out, it's the same as them. Tom, Jack, we're next. A low, guttural laugh echoed from above. Subject 16 moved silently, watching, waiting, savoring their fear. The mansion itself groaned and twisted, closing off exits and narrowing hallways. The green flicker of broken lights revealed the remnants of the laboratory: shattered glass, twisted metal, and the broken cages that once held Blackthorne's victims. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, forming grotesque shapes that seemed almost alive. Suddenly, a floorboard cracked beneath Eli. The mansion seemed to respond immediately, twisting the hallway ahead. Doors slammed shut behind them. The walls narrowed. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. Subject 16 emerged from the shadows. His grin was wide, patient, and unrelenting. Every step he took reverberated through the mansion, shaking the floor beneath them. Stay together, Lena screamed, grabbing Eli's arm. We can't give up. But the mansion had already claimed control. Hallways shifted, corners twisted, and shadows reached for them like grasping hands. Eli stumbled, screaming as a shadow seemed to wrap around him. He tried to pull free, but the darkness was too strong. Lena swung the camera and flashlight, illuminating Subject 16's twisted face for just a moment. His grin widened. "You belong to this house," he whispered. The mansion responded violently. Walls bent inward, the floor groaned, and doors slammed shut, cutting off any hope of escape. The boys' screams echoed through the hallways, mixing with the low laughter of their relentless predator. Lena tried to run, dragging Eli with her, but the shadows were everywhere. The floor twisted beneath them, forcing them into a corner of the mansion that had not existed moments before. The livestream viewers, over 1.5 million strong, watched in real time as the two friends were surrounded. Every desperate movement, every scream, every tear-filled plea was broadcast to the world. Tom and Jack's memory lingered in the mansion, a warning that had gone unheeded. Lena and Eli now faced the same fate. The shadows reached out. The mansion groaned, alive and hungry. Subject 16 closed in with impossible speed. The boys' cries were swallowed by darkness as the walls pressed tighter. Lena whispered into the camera, voice breaking, "If anyone sees this, don't come here. The house, it never forgets." Then silence. The camera fell to the floor, recording only dust, twisted shadows, and the faint flicker of green light over the empty, broken hallways of Blackthorn Mansion. Subject 16 faded into the darkness, patient, eternal, ready to wait for the next souls foolish enough to enter. The mansion exhaled, settled, and waited. The legend continued. The house had remembered. And it would never stop. The end.